Good afternoon and welcome to all of you to this 14th SogetiLabs Executive Summit. My name is Stefan. I'm head of SogetiLabs globally, so I will introduce these days to you. And I also want to say a special welcome to all our speakers, friends from Microsoft and IBM. We have a few guests from Capgemini also, so I want to welcome. And I also want to say a special welcome to Hans van Weinberg, who was head of SogetiLabs Global before me, so welcome. And finally, I also want to take the opportunity to thank you, Erik, who has been working with us as a business partner and friend from IBM for many years. And hopefully you can come next years also, but I understand you will change roles, but we appreciate the long relationship and cooperation. Thank you very much. This Executive Summit is also a little bit special for SogetiLabs because that's the first time we have doing a SogetiLabs Summit with our new logo, which you can see up to the right there, SogetiLabs part of Capgemini. And we also have a new brand profile that we launched just after summer. So a little bit special for us. And we will, of course, continue in SogetiLabs, so have a very deep passion for technology, and by this passion deliver value, business value for you as a customer. So that's, of course, our continuous focus to be very good in technology, and by that bringing business value. This theme made me think a little bit extra on my own history in software industry and this IT industry. And I was thinking a little bit what I've done during my years. So I was thinking, I'm actually working with software for nuclear power plants. I'm working with software in defense industry, handling where you should shoot, trigonometry and that kind of stuff. I also been working with payment systems. So I started to think, a lot of people have had trust in my software. And these areas can be pretty dangerous, actually. So that made me reflect. So I'm really looking forward to this event and the theme. And by that, I once again welcome you all. And Michiel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, good afternoon. It's my honor and pleasure again to be your host over the next 2 days or the next 24 hours and explore this, I think, exciting theme of In Code We Trust. So, like Stefan already said, who do we have in the room here? If you look around you, you see about 90 of our customers coming from 11 countries. We have some of our account executives. You will meet the executive management of all those countries of SogetiLabs. We have some people from Capgemini, even from the group management board joining us. So Patrick Nicolet, our group CTO, is with us. Of course, we have a partner representative, one of our most distinguished guests, Tom Rosa-Muller from IBM, joining us. And we will hear from him just in a couple of in about 20, 30 minutes. And then I think that we will have a group of 12, I would say, quite exceptional speakers that will each deliver their perspective, will shed some light on this theme of In Code We Trust, and that will give their perspective, so that when you go away at the end of or after lunch tomorrow, that you have a very good perspective from all the different sides that you can look at this trust and how technology is affecting that trust. But before we are going to hear from all those speakers, I really want to hear from you. And I want to hear your perspective on In Code We Trust. And so that's why we have this Busmaster system It works with your phone, so if you can take your phone or tablet out, and if you go to your settings, and then select the Busmaster Wi-Fi network, and join that. I don't think there's a password required. And then if you have connected to the Busmaster network, then open your browser on your device, and you surf to the site busmaster with a Z, with two Z's, .io. And that will enable me to ask you some interesting questions. So everybody is looking at their device. I think it worked, right? Okay, so if you do that, then I would like you to log in with your real name, please. So we don't need Donald Trump or Putin in the room. So if you have logged in, yeah, the good thing is when you go to the Busmaster Wi-Fi, you will stop receiving any mails. So you're really in the room, right? Which is quite important. Okay, so those are the settings. So let me ask you a first question. It's a simple one. Please let me know at what table you're seated. And you will find the table number on your table. And if you just let me know where you're seated, that's the first question. That also will help me to find out later on who has given which answer. So that's per table. So I see table 3 is a little bit struggling still. Getting online, but you get the drift, right? Okay, so that's question number 1. Question number 2, a little bit more interesting, I think, is what's your job? What's your job title? Is it CTO? Is it Chief Marketing Officer? Is it CEO? Chief Executive Officer? Is it a business line manager? Is it the CIO or the IT manager? Or is it another role that you have within your organizations? So if we can see the score there. So many people other, some CTOs, 27% CIO or IT manager, some CEOs and some business line managers. It's quite interesting, so I would say it's not only an audience of technologists, we are also a business audience, I would say. So we have this interesting spread. And then the last question, it's a word cloud that I want to create. It's the question, if you think back and you received the invitation and you heard about, for the first time, the theme of this year's, In Code We Trust, what was the first word, one word, what was the first word that came to mind? And you can just type in the word. And then we will create a word cloud from that. So I'll give you a little bit of time to type that in. What's the first word that came to mind when you heard about this year's theme? In Code We Trust. So, security. That's interesting. Many people thought immediately about God. So, in God we trust, right? Quality. Facebook. Of course, do you trust Facebook? I'm sure that we will discuss this question later on. Blockchain, quite interesting. Quality, relationships, interesting. Business, so many, many different things. But security and Facebook and trust and privacy, I think, are top of mind. So maybe it's good that before we dive in, that I give you a little bit of perspective of how we came to this year's theme. And so, as many of you know, we organized this from SogetiLabs. And SogetiLabs is our think tank or our research group where we try to bring together the best and brightest, the technology leaders as we have them across the operations. And we write reports. So over the last couple of years, We are doing this already for 25 years. We have published many, many reports on technologies like big data, Internet of Things, disruptive innovation, AI, artificial intelligence. Those are the topics. And last year we started with this new theme where all these topics, I think, come together, which is digital happiness. So we started talking about digital happiness last year when we looked at the happiness advantage. And what we do today, the report that we are publishing actually today, it will arrive later on today, so when you walk out this afternoon you will get a copy. It's actually a report on this theme of In Code We Trust. Now if we look at all this research over the last couple of years, there's really only one question that we try to answer. And that one question is really this so what question. We look at not the technology for technology's sake, but we always try to answer the question, how is this going to impact society? How is this going to change society? And then when we think about that question, always it is, and that's the words of Clay Shirky, that I always have to think about, is that a revolution doesn't happen when a society adopts new tools, when a society adopts new technology. It happens when they adopt new behavior, when the behavior of people is changing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to change people. And in response to that behavioral change, your organizations will change. So it's not that technology will change your organization directly, it's always through and via people's behavior. So that's why we will focus on this behavior and what's happening with this behavior very, very much. Now then we have this new technology. Last theme was on AI, on machine intelligence. And then when we think about machine intelligence, of course, the first question, the most important question that comes up is really the question, what is society going to look like after the AI revolution has happened? And then have we created a society that we really want to live in, that we really enjoy? So what are the guarantees, what are the choices, what are the values that we have to follow to make sure that that society that we are creating right now is actually a society that we want to live in? And so what we need to do is to figure out a way how we can get an answer to this Frankenstein factor, as we call it. The Frankenstein factor, where everybody, when you start talking about AI and automation, everybody has to think about the Terminator, right? Technology is going to take over, and then the first thing that technology will do is kill us all because we are a threat to its existence. Right? That's what we mean with the Frankenstein factor. Now we have to get over that. We have to create the trust that people will embrace this technology instead of fight the technology. And we believe that the way to do that is to become the guardian of the digital happiness of your customer. That's the objective. That's the challenge that each and every one of your organizations have. How are you going to use technology in a way that it always provides digital happiness for your customer? Or even, how can you become the guardian of the digital happiness of your customer? So that's the theme, that's the context at which we now are going to look at this In Code We Trust. And then the main reason why we started to look at this theme of trust is this Adelman study, right? The famous PR agency, Adelman, they have been publishing these reports, these trust barometers worldwide, looking at trust levels across the world. They've done this since 2004, and what is interesting is that in the 2018 version of this study, they're talking about this meltdown of trust. Trust is going out the door. I mean, nobody trusts their bank anymore, their government, their insurance company, their car manufacturer, you name it. Nobody trusts institutions anymore. And obviously, that's a problem. Now, talking about trust, I'm interested in another question from you. So if you take your phones It's a very simple question. Look around at the people at your table. And this is anonymous. It's anonymous, so don't worry. And just tell me, do you trust the people at your table? Yes or no? So some people were very quick. Some people have to. Oh, so I'm glad. 80% of you say that they trust the people at your table. So let me then ask you a follow-up question, which is, do you trust the person left to you enough to lend them 5,000 euros? Look at the person left to you. I'm quite surprised, right? You are in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, nobody would lend you 5,000 euros, right? Absolutely not. So I think there's a lot of trust in this room. So we don't trust institutions anymore. That's illustrated by this meltdown of trust, like Adelman talks about. But on the other hand, we do trust each other. We do trust individuals, right? Why is it that if we don't trust institutions anymore, that we are fine of getting into a car with a complete stranger just because Uber says so? Or we are ready to give the keys of our apartment to a complete stranger just because Airbnb says it's okay? Or in this case, we are ready to loan out our drilling machine or our sewing machine to a complete stranger just because a company like Pierre, another platform, says it's okay, that you can be trusted. So what we are experiencing, and that's what we're going to explore over the next 24 hours, is not only the meltdown of trust, but the shift of trust. We are seeing that we are going from this old world where trust is a brand, where it's centralized, where we talk about slow trust. We're moving to this new phase where we have the rise of the platform trust, where trust becomes a rating, where it's decentralized, where it's fast. And what we're going to explore is if we already can envision a next step where we talk about distributed trust, where trust becomes a protocol, it becomes part of the system. That's what we're going to explore with these 12 speakers. Now, to help me with that, I have two co-hosts. So maybe I can invite them on stage with a little round of applause. Pierre Hessler. The only Capgemini fellow, I would say, and the chairman's delegate. And then Menno, research director of our think tank. And so they will be hosting this event with me. They will make sure that your questions will get answered, but they also have a specific role. I've asked them to be the advocate of either a dystopian world, Pierre Hessler, the advocate of the devil, or Menno, or Saint Menno, maybe we should call him, being the advocate of this utopian future. And so maybe it's good that we start with the dystopian view of what the future will look like, looking at this in Code We Trust. What's your perspectives on this theme, Pierre? Yeah, it's going.
I'm sorry, I forgot it. Well, this is part of my dystopian approach, trying to speak without being heard. Now, a dystopian view, by the way, I had to look into my Oxford English dictionary to have some precise definition because this was too vague for me. And actually, a dystopia is an an imagined place or state in which everything is unpleasant or bad. So I find that truly motivating to be the representative of that place towards you. Now, why should one be dystopian? Why should one have this pessimistic view? And I would submit to you 3 major reasons. The first one is that in the good old days, and they are not that old, right? Technology could always be used for something good or for something bad. That's always been the case, okay? Depending on the imagination and will of the users. But now, management and control mechanisms no longer seem to work as they did. And let me give you 2 examples of that. When you think of a gentleman like Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know him personally, but I'm absolutely certain he is a remarkable person. And look at how overwhelmed he is by technology, which appears to be out of control, even in his own company. Or, to take another example, when in the good old days of IT was considered a black box. And now with AI, we are creating thousands of black boxes. One knows what goes in, nobody can predict what will come out. So that's my first point. The second one is that in the good old days, democratic institutions always protected us at the end, always. But now, the democratic institutions are weakening badly. We give you 2 examples. First of all, as a lawyer, if I have one belief in terms of government and state, it is the belief in separation of powers. This is, the most important principle in these matters. And this principle is being broken down and severely beaten as we speak in a number of countries. And by the way, one of them, it's not just Hungary or some fancy events in the US or wherever, also in a country like France, it is being under attack. And another example is that the populist governments, which get elected nearly every week right now, think of Brazil yesterday, or nearly elected, the populist governments want to use no longer want to protect us. They want to use technologies to control us. And then the third dystopian consideration, if you permit, Michiel, is the following. Everywhere we can see good intentions. There are people speaking the right things, good thoughts, goodwill, everywhere. You can find thousands of examples all the time. But now, these good intentions are killed by the necessity in the digital world to survive. Our survival instinct is taking over and making sure that good intentions cannot unfold as they used to. 2 examples. Think of all these nice small companies which have been created with the purest of intention. A WhatsApp aiming at protecting us from unwanted advertising. Now you sell your company for a couple of billions to one of the giants, and then the good intentions will be gone quickly. Second example, it's quite funny remembering the don't be evil of Google, when in fact, day in, day out, hundreds of employees are protesting against some of the management decisions of Google, working for defense, working in China, these kinds of issues. So 3 rather dark considerations as you asked me to provide them, right? And this, in my own mind, leads me to asking myself 3 questions. The first one is, in this world, as I see as dystopian, what is the role of the CIO of a company? Now, we've just seen that there are only 27% or so CIOs in the room, but we all have some interest in technology. And what is the role of the people managing and leading technology in this environment? The second one is maybe a wrong word in English, I'm not too sure, but we have always feared to become dependent on a single supplier, on a single piece of software, on a single source of anything, right? Now, with a number of the developments in the digital world, we actually become dependent on dependencies, which become over dependencies, because they are not just contractual, it's not just, a legal obligation, etc., but it is a de facto radical dependency on big powers. And the third question is the question of our people. Because if we indeed were to live in a dystopian world, how can we motivate our people to not only accept that there is a dystopian environment, but actively do something about it, be motivated to work in this environment? These would be my three questions.
So thank you very much for depressing me totally. And
I knew I
the
could.
Audience. But I'm very glad that we have an optimist with us as well. That would, of course, paint a totally different picture. So what's your view on this utopian future, this beautiful future?
Well, I was thinking, and looking at your three questions, Pierre, we already found an answer on one of the questions you didn't ask, is how to demotivate your people. I would suggest to ask Pierre to come to your companies and do a presentation about, the dystopian future. I think that this is not the way it should go. So and I think basically there are many, many good reasons for being an optimist. And I will only share three of them. Also put in a question, Pierre. And one of them is, the saying, what goes up must go down. You know that? So and the other one would be, once you hit the bottom, the only way is up. And from my perspective, I think we have hit the bottom of all this. Or we're really close. So either way, it's a good thing. So either way, we go down further, and the faster we go down, the sooner we go up, which is an optimistic, utopian approach. Or we are already in the lift, so to say. And I'm talking about, of course, the crisis of trust. I'm not talking about the economy itself, which is going terrifically well. So I will leave the economic argument, so to say, off the table, Pierre, only talking about trust. But the economy is sunny as never before. And I do think we need to talk about technology itself. And of course, and that's my second point, it's about the blockchain. And my question would be, is the blockchain overhyped enough? Because as we all know, the great revolutionary infrastructural technologies that has changed the world, like the canals in England, or railroads, or the internet itself, they all have been overhyped. For a good reason, because they needed the money in order to create an infrastructure to improve society. So if we would like to have a trusted protocol, for instance, to improve the internet itself, the blockchain desperately needs your money. So if you're doubting the investments in blockchain, don't. Just throw your money into maybe useless blockchain projects. It's not important, because we all need to build a new infrastructure based on a trust protocol. That would be my second point. And the last point would be about, I believe that there's a healing effect of the awareness that we have put the bets on trust in a wrong way. We have, all the behavior that we now see, is it from the Catholic Church or the Buddhist monks or the Volkswagen and the other Dieselgate companies, or Herbert Weinstein and the other men, or even the Panama Papers, or Zuckerberg, whatever. they all show that the utopos, you know, the good place, is not the old things. It shines a light on another utopia and a motivation to create a better world. So we need this, you know, coming closer to the truth of things in order to define our new utopia, and there's a groundswell where you already see that coming. So my 3 questions, they're already here, would be this. Are we already at the bottom? We could discuss that, Pierre. The blockchain, is it overhyped enough? If not, you can help to do so. And the last one is, you know, and I'm curious as well as an optimist, but I'm also very curious to know how this new utopia looks like. So these are my 3 points.
So I think it's interesting to see these 2 perspectives that will, I think, be with us over the next 24 hours. But I'm now really interested in what the audience thinks. What do you think? Shall we ask the question? So what do you think? Are we heading for a dystopian future, or are we heading for a utopian future? So let me see if we have enough of the votes in to display the results. So although your arguments as advocate of the devil were very elegant, Pierre, still people are utopian.
I must do better.
Yeah. Well, you still have plenty of opportunity. So 67% utopian. Maybe there's a difference between the different classes of people. Maybe the IT people or the technology people are more optimistic. Can we see the CTOs? Probably there's only one CTO in the room, maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
And the CIOs and the IT managers. So a little bit less, pretty optimistic. Can we now see the CEOs? Wow. So there's still some job to do, right? So the technologists are optimistic, utopian. CEOs, they're not that sure yet. So, okay, so let's see if we can continue this discussion. Thank you very much, Pierre. Thank you, Menno. So we have 12 speakers, many speakers. We have organized them into 5 blocks. We are now doing the setting the stage. Then we will have a block exploring the relationship between technology and trust. First, of course, we want to understand what trust is, but then we want to know how technology is affecting trust. And is technology actually leading to this meltdown of trust? And then tomorrow, after we have defined the problem today, and probably have some nice discussions over dinner tonight, tomorrow we're going to focus on the solutions. And we see 3 dimensions for solutions. Of course, there's technology that can create a problem, but probably also solve some of it, but we need to do more. We need to look at behavior and how we are behaving, and how can behavior and changing behavior be part of the solution to prevent dystopia, and then we need to look at governance and management. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow.